Hey everybody, it's Joe Trippi, and welcome back to That Trippi Show with my co-host Alex Sashlow. Today we're back to video. We're going to keep working on it. So if you're watching us on YouTube or streaming us, there'll be more of these, and you're going to see. Hey, it's whatever mistakes we make, whatever hemming and hawing I do, you're just going to have to live with it.
You're really going to see how good our editors are, I think.
Yeah, that's true too. They can cut back and forth to whenever you see Alex, it probably means I screwed up. Anyway, Trump still has the government shut down. Of course, we look at the data and what should Democrats do. Plus, how's the economy going? And yes, it does matter, although some people ask whether it does. And a big No Kings weekend coming up. What do we have to do to make a difference? Alex, where do you want to get started?
Oh, man. So, look, as we're recording this, as people are watching it, we are still in a shutdown, Trump's shutdown. There is like no end in sight as of right now.
No, we're going to be in, we don't even have to tell them that we're still in one. We're going to be still in one for several more weeks. I think it's going to be the longest one in history and go well past November 1st. Yeah. I mean, well, 35. I think the last one was the longest one in 2018 was 35 days. I think it's going to be longer than that one.
So zooming out a little bit, and we started to get this on our last live show last week, but haven't done it for the pod yet. Looking at how both sides are messaging this, and very consistently you hear Trump and the Republicans say it's the Schumer shutdown, and are just trying to use alliteration to mask the fact that they control all three branches of government. Joe, looking at where Democrats are you happy with how Democrats are doing right now on this?
Look, I think we've talked about it. We could, people may have thought there was a better issue or something, but look, healthcare does matter. I think what really happened here is the Republicans and MAGA really screwed themselves with Johnson. Basically, yes, the government shut down, but Republicans left town for 3 weeks now. And he hasn't been willing to bring them back. And I think when you actually look at the compromise numbers, that, hey, we should compromise and stop the shutdown. Democrats have an advantage, I think, on healthcare, and even have an advantage on who they think is willing to compromise. But I think what's really becoming clear to people is the Republicans have no desire to do anything about compromise. And there's the reason you're seeing Republicans scoring lower on are they willing to compromise, or are they being irresponsible. Both parties are seen as not compromising, and there's plenty of irresponsibility that people are ascribing to both sides. But Democrats are seen as sincerely trying and willing to compromise, and that healthcare in particular is worth not compromising on, not opening the government until you have a solution. And the Republicans just look like, no, screw you. We're not even coming. We're not even going to be here to talk to you. And I think that is coming through along with everything else that's going on.
Let me give you some of those numbers. Yeah. So the compromise is a really good one, because this is from Navigator's latest research this week. Mm-hmm. If you ask it whether the Republicans should compromise with the Democrats, actually the American people believe by a pretty wide margin that Republicans should compromise. But if you flip it around, they do not believe that Democrats should compromise with Republicans.
Right.
So I think it's
almost by half.
It's a 30-point margin, 59-29 saying that Trump should compromise, and then the other way around, 15 points say Democrats. But this is where, to your point about the issue, I think this really jumped off the page, and I'll be writing more about this tomorrow. When asked whether Democrats should compromise, even if it means healthcare costs going up, Americans say don't compromise. 2 points, and that's a plus 34 with independents. If you add healthcare and you add the reason that Democrats are doing this and
Right.
they're holding the line on healthcare, it moves independents by 44 points. It moves it moves all Americans by 17 overall.
Right. Yeah. It's a 17 plus. So you go from two if it's just sort of nebulous, they should to 17 if it's healthcare, which gets to your point about, healthcare. And that's what I'm saying. We can argue whether a different issue would have made that divide higher. I don't think so. I think people, and here's the thing I think that the Republicans don't understand and why I think this is going to go a lot longer. It's, the reason that we're doing this is because insurance companies, the healthcare, that whole system has to know what it's going to be before, as they're sending out notices to people, telling them what what their cost is, how their healthcare is going to increase, what their copays are, things like that.
Right.
And we know it's going to be 70 if there is no compromise, literally 20 million Americans are going to have a 75% to 100%, some higher than that, increase in their healthcare premiums. And so here's the problem that you've got. If right now, very few Americans have gotten that notice yet. Guess when they're going to start getting them? November 1st.
Right.
So the Republicans keep saying, no, no, we've got plenty of time because those prices don't actually happen till December 31st. Let's just kick this down the road. I think somewhere in mid-November with the CR, and let's just keep moving here. We can settle this. And Democrats, by saying no, hell no, we're not going to let you raise premiums on 22 million Americans and raise their health care 75 to 100% or higher. Not going to happen. You got to sit down with us. We need to negotiate that. Okay, so right now the numbers you just said, Alex, are where people are. Where the hell are they going to be when millions of Americans in early November start to get the notices that their health care costs have gone up 100%, 75%. If they were paying 700, they're now paying 1,400. If they were paying 1,000, they're now paying 2,000. And what they're seeing at that point will be Democrats who've held out for over 30 days saying, we're not going to let this happen. You have to sit down with us, and we have to do this for the American people, while the Republicans are still saying, nah, 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 no, no, no,
Right.
it'll all go away. That's when I think I think that's where this issue was different from all the others, because the pressure to do something on this one is going to become excruciating as more and more Americans realize what the stakes really are, and what the Republicans have done to raise in their budget to create havoc and increases with their health care, with cost of living. And by the way, that's on top of tariffs and inflation and food prices and everything else, because whether it was because of the mass deportation that made it possible, that left crops literally dying on the vine, or whether it was tariffs and on China, and China not buying soybeans or anything else, and so farmers are hurting. I mean, all this, and now
Which,
on top of
speaking
the
of
proof
farmers,
point. Yeah.
yeah, well, speaking of farmers, we're sending Argentina another $20 billion.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
during a
Exactly.
government shutdown, it's a $40 billion bailout to one of Trump's far right buddies.
Right.
That
No,
just
and they're
can't play
shipping,
well.
right. And they're selling soybeans to China. Trump's trade policies are destroying literally the ability of soybean farmers to make a living. They're losing, and we're bailing out Argentina for to tune of $40 billion. while they're selling, they're taking our place in the markets that China was buying our agricultural products. They're now buying them from Argentina, not us. So you've got all this pain and all this increase in costs, and they can shuck and jive, but people will know when they start getting those notices on their health care costs, that what they've been hearing for a month at that point, that the Democrats are holding the line and not going to take it, and they will keep it closed until Republicans stand up, come to a table, and agree to fix this mess they created with their budget. And it's
So
not
what
just
you're
this, it's
telling me is
Medicaid, it's a whole bunch of things.
what you're telling me and all of us is that because that ain't going to happen for a while,
Yeah.
we're going to be shut down for a while.
Well, again, if Republicans were in town and there were some talks going on, maybe they would come to their senses and do it now. I mean, that's the only way it's going to happen sooner. The only way it's going to happen sooner is if and yeah, call your office holders, scream at them about the fact that they should come back and work on fixing healthcare and not raising healthcare costs. And that has to be the compromise that Democrats are fighting for. So no matter whether, if you're living in a district right now, that's the pressure you should be putting on your, particularly GOP member. And the more that pressure ratchets up, and it will ratchet up as their constituents start to get the notices, a lot of the Medicaid cuts and everything else are shutting down rural hospitals in red states and other healthcare that's going to raise healthcare costs even higher for other reasons. So it literally is the only one who can cry uncle will be the GOP, will be MAGA, will be Trump. And you're already hearing them making noises about, oh, Donald Trump, he's concerned about higher healthcare prices. Well, look, it's their budget. They did this. We're trying to stop these cuts, these price increases from happening. And people will understand that with each day. That's what I'm saying. That pressure is going to ratchet up every day as more and more people understand. And by the way, it's not just the notices they're going to get. People will be, rural hospitals are already shutting down because of other things, the Medicaid cuts, et cetera. So I think the healthcare is going to be a very important pressure point, that in the end, yes, Democrats are right to fight to keep their votes away. I mean, to not do what we did last time and give them the votes to fix to solve the problem. Let
Right,
them kick
which
it down
I
the road.
recall I recall Democrats last time caved.
Right.
Then they
And
were
we're at the same place. It's worse.
on the promise that caved on the promise that immigration would be addressed, and then immigration was never addressed.
Oh no,
So
it's being addressed. It's ICE.
no, I mean the right, yeah, it's being addressed, but the
Just not
I
what
think
the
this was the
compromise
DACA.
was.
They were
Yeah,
promised DACA, and it never
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
the
It's all bullshit.
the
And that's
two
what I think the American people are by keeping it shut down on this issue. People will realize it's all bullshit. All of it. All of
there's
we're going to
two.
lower prices on day one. Bullshit.
Right. There's two minor ones here, and then I want to move on to the economy. Number one, a reminder on why the government is shut down, or rather, why Congress isn't there. They're still dicking around on the Epstein list, by the way. They really
Yeah.
don't want that coming out. They haven't sworn Alita Grijalva in yet.
Yeah. Well, we'll do that when the government reopens. So it's like, you've got somebody who has an office in Washington that she has no keys to. Why? Because Johnson isn't going to swear in. Why is he really not swearing in? Because she's the 218th signer of the that will get the put the bill on the floor.
But if we were talking about this in like May when a
Yeah.
lot of this was really bubbling, and we kept saying Epstein, 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 and a lot of people, especially in our party, said, "Don't talk about it. Why are you still
Yeah.
talking about it? This
Yeah.
is going
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
away." This now is what
Well,
happens when the Republican dog catches the car. They're still so petrified that they are now fighting that fight. They are keeping Congress home while prices are rising, while healthcare is on the brink, and they have no solutions. But what it all fits back to that the part of the rigged system cover up. And that I think is the lasting damage that is really starting to take hold now. Joe,
well,
anything else before we get to the economy?
no, no. I mean, on Epstein, look, you and I spotted it right away. I mean, there was a huge shift of independence away from Trump and MAGA with as Epstein started when Bondi said nothing to see here.
Right.
After she promised that I've got him on my desk and I'm going to release him. So I think that's in independence. It's like you were talking about on the shutdown. It's interesting to me that independents are siding again more with Democrats than Republicans. That's not what's happened in the past few years. And I think it started with Epstein, and that's why, again, it's clear that's a hot stove that they're trying really hard to make sure that they can turn it off somehow. And the problem is it's not going to work. There will be a discharge petition. Even this. So you don't sign her in, you don't swear her in, you don't give her keys to your office to her office. At some point in November, there will, they're going to open the government up after they cry uncle because they finally the American people finally realized what they've actually done to healthcare and to raise their costs. And then they're going to swear her in, you would think. And then she's going to sign that discharge petition. And guess what? Epstein. There will be a vote on the floor to release the files. And by the way, usually when you have 218 votes on or signatures on a discharge petition, folks, that means you have 218 votes to release them. So usually 99.999% of the time. Of course, at that point, I'm sure Donald Trump will be threatening every single one of them, behind the scenes on perfect phone calls. But the odds are they're not going to. And I think that may be part of this too. Part of why you
Yeah.
don't bring them back here is you don't want more Republicans to come back and sign that damn petition. It's not just her. People are hearing it. So I think, there's a bunch of different things that are going on here that will culminate when they finally do open the government up. And it's up to Democrats to keep it to health care and make them come to the table.
Healthcare and probably costs. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same. Which
Yeah.
getting to there is something interesting. Another this show is just going to be just pet theory hour, but we've got
But every show is pet theory hour.
yeah, that is
Come
true.
on. I
So
mean, with some facts and things. I mean, like the one thing I do think people need to know about this show is we really look at the polling out there, and there are quality polls and there are like trash polls. The head to head really does not matter. And so what we look for, and what Alex and I do, is to look under those head to head numbers and really try like peel out things like look at how
right,
independents have moved since Epstein. Look at they're still there on the shutdown. I mean, as you start seeing independents start siding on question after question, and big numbers, by the way, but that's because Republicans are like 90%. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and he'd have a good reason for doing it, their approval. So when you have their party way out there, Democrats way out there, the only way you can get under that far under 50 is because independents have said, hell no. And that's starting to happen. And that's why I think the numbers that you were touting at the top on how independents were looking at compromise and particularly on healthcare are really important. So I'm sorry, I
Well, no,
interrupted
no.
your
Well,
new
I
theory.
think, I think on polling, I mean, again, we need polls to do our jobs. We do a ton of research ourselves too,
Yeah.
and for every poll that you see grabbing a headline, there's literally dozens, if not hundreds, that are either completely spurious,
Well,
as I think trash is how you described it, but there are
and a
some
lot of those are the
numbers.
ones that get the headlines.
Right. But there are some numbers in these polls, and you can do things like look at methodology. One of the questions we get all the time from listeners and now viewers is, well, what about Iowa last year? What can I trust in polls? And as you said, Joe, it's not the head to head. It's there are some just big numbers that when you're seeing movement, when you're seeing some of the stuff, they're
Right.
too big to ignore. I'm going to give you this one, and I do want your take on this economy wise. So we keep talking about, is the economy doing well? Is it not doing well? But I almost think for our purposes, it matters less about whether we can argue whether or not it is or isn't doing well
Right.
versus what like a very specific chunk of Americans think, is it doing well or isn't it doing well? And here is the new Economist YouGov poll that came out about a week ago now. And I guess so right at the beginning of the shutdown. But overall, do you think the economy is getting better or worse? And these are the types of questions that I care way more about than even Trump's approval rating. 19% better, 21% the same, 53% worse. Joe, 19% of Americans think the economy is getting better. Everybody else thinks it's either the same or worse. That is
Well,
horrendous.
yeah, and if you remember correctly, the a lot of those people who are in it's the same thought it was pretty bad. I mean, I'm talking about people who didn't vote for
Right.
Harris or
That's
Biden.
why I'm
Yeah,
lumping the
yeah,
same with the
yeah. That's what
worst.
I mean. The same is not necessarily signing up for better because they could have picked better. They did not. So no, when you see these, that's what I'm saying. When you see him at with 55% disapproval, when you see independents moving like that. I mean, it'd be really interesting. I didn't look at it before we started the show, but really interesting to see where independents are on that issue. In other words, like if independent, let me explain. I would make a certain assumption about this without looking at the crosstabs yet. I would bet you that an overwhelming number of Republicans make up the 19% better. If that's the case, this is my whole point. When you start looking at crosstabs, I can guarantee you independents are not necessarily even in the same, but probably higher in the same and higher than the 53 worse, is what I'm trying to say. The Democrats for sure are going to be higher on worse and higher on same, and very few of them saying better. I mean, this is part of the polarization that you see when you start looking at this and you understand, no, it doesn't really matter where the real partisans are because we know where they're going to be in this polarized world where Trump makes everything us and them and at each other's throats. No, where are the independents? And I guarantee you, when you look at that number in the crosstabs, the independents are going to be not aligned with better and much higher with the same and worse. And they're going to be bigger than that 53% worse. So once you start getting independents who are, 57 disapprove of him, 57% believe the economy's worse, 53, whatever the percent we'll see that believe giving Argentina a bailout for $40 billion of American taxpayer money isn't a good idea. I'm sure independents will be there too. He has something, and it started with Epstein. They've gone to all this trouble to stop
Right.
people from signing discharge petitions
Right.
and not even coming back to that.
Well,
I do think that's part of the shutdown. Part of the shutdown is to push off the Epstein thing.
so what strikes me is, and I think a lot of the polling under the hood is somewhere around 80% of Republicans either view the economy favorably or
Yeah.
approve of Trump on the economy, whatever it is. What is different this time is he really needs that number to be higher than 90. He needs it to be like 95, 96 for Republicans to have a shot next year.
No,
If
no,
he's
he needs
losing, 20% of the Republican base who are already in the minority, they are going to have some huge problems next year.
Well, that's one. But what I'm saying is if they are 80%, it's better. That means independents are like
Right.
not leaning
Well,
with.
you're saying that 80% is the 19. Exactly. No, and
Yeah.
it's a huge majority of independents. It's
That's
two-thirds in some polling. It's
Yeah, that's what
crazy.
I'm saying. So this is like a bigger, it's not just the 20% that he's losing with Republicans. That's what I'm saying. This is much now, by the way, that is why when this first started to happen, and we both saw it a week or two in where there was this big movement of independents away from Trump and MAGA, which hadn't been there. They'd been leaning not big to him, but big enough that it won him the 2024 election, particularly with Democrats staying home. What happened was within a couple of weeks of that happening, I can guarantee you they saw it in their own numbers because that's when he picked up the phone and called Abbott and said, I need 5 more districts in Texas. That's when you started to see a real uptick in sending the guard into our cities, which I think is prep for having the guard or ICE because they're conflated now. ICE standing outside of polling booths in neighborhoods in 2026 because they're looking to make sure illegals don't vote, and that's their phrase. That's what they'll be saying to protect the vote. This is all where they're going, and it's also why the Supreme Court case that the Supreme Court is hearing today on the Voting Rights Act, which if they got that act, would literally overnight change the complexion of Congress, and I mean the complexion of Congress. We would be there will be a lot of districts that are represented by minorities in Congress today that will be redistricted to stop minority representation. And so this is all part of what Trump is doing, what all this is doing. That's why, by the way, that I think it's even more important to shut this thing down and to make a stand, to get the American people to understand what the stakes are, which I think gets us to our last thing
Yeah,
here
well,
because
which gets to this weekend. We got No Kings
yeah,
protests coming up again on the 18th. Seeing some people say, "Oh, the weather's not going to be great." I don't care. Get out there, get wet.
yeah, and bring a flag. And I mean, literally be peaceful, be patriotic, show America that since 1776, before that, the revolution, our history has been no kings now, no kings ever. And when you see Stephen Miller talk about plenary authority and Pam Bondi say that Trump can absolutely invoke the Insurrection Act, you have
Yeah.
Johnson talking about no kings. I
Yeah,
don't
him
know.
saying it's the Hate America rally. You can see that it's getting to them. You can clearly these are the actions to your point. And by the way, we are for those paying attention, we are a little over time. We're going to try to wrap in a few, but I'll let Joe finish this last point. These are the actions of an administration that is letting this stuff get to them.
Yes, and that's why we have to press harder. If there were 12 million last time, I keep saying this, if you went with two friends, bring four. If it's I don't care if it's raining. This is the future of this country, the future of whether we the people will still be running things or not. And you have a literally authoritarian movement with Trump leading it that has both houses and the Supreme Court doing its bowing to his whims. We need to be out there, what I'm two things: peaceful and patriotic. A lot of red, white, and blue. This is America, and we stand up and say no kings here, not now, not ever. It's been that way for 249 years, and we can't be the first generation that lets it happen when we can stand up and give our voice. And the more of us who do that, the more Americans are going to understand that they're not alone, that they're not the only ones worried about this, and that they can show up the next time. And we have to keep growing this, because waiting till 2026 with all that they are trying to do to thwart that election is not an option. We have to do it now. We have to get loud, and we have to say to the court on October 18th, no, we're the American people, and we are standing up to you too. And I think that's really important for people to get. There's a lot going on, but your voice, you can't lose faith in the power of your voice and the power of all of us when we pull together. So, Alex, I think you're right. I think that's that we're way over. Thanks, everyone, for listening to That Trippi Show. And for those of you watching us, thanks for watching. Make sure to join us at sez.us, SEZ.us. It's a civil social network for real human beings where we can create a pro-democracy movement and join together in civil discussion and about policies and how we can stop and what we need to do to stop this. This podcast will always be free and is part of Lincoln Square. So check out the latest at lincolnsquare.media. Resolute Square, we've rebranded to Lincoln Square. Also, if you're listening to this episode on YouTube, please like and subscribe to get alerts when we post the next episode. You can always send us a question to thattrippishow@gmail.com or leave us a question in the review on iTunes. We'll see you next week. And please spread the word. Ask if you like what you're hearing here, ask people to join us. And please check out Lincoln Square. We've got a lot of good shows there. Take care.